So I was planning on uploading a Genshin video today, but unfortunately the 4.2 live stream got cancelled. Luckily, there's another huge event going on in Star Rail today, which is Topaz's release. And thank God I managed to get her since I wasn't actually guaranteed. And the pulling session was really rough since I lost the first 50-50 to Himeko. And then I ran out of Jades, but I managed to convert 20 more pulls from the Starlight Exchange, and then I finally got Topaz. I also ended up with E6 Sushang and Luca, but only E3 Gunaifen. So the reason I got Topaz is that I really like her character and gameplay. I know that both are divisive in the community since a lot of people dislike her character, but is it just me, or she isn't actually a bad guy? She's kind of just doing her job. This is how she puts food on the table. So Topaz went into Belobog because it was her job to try sort out a deal for Bronya and Belobog on how they were going to repay their debts and survive as a society. And Topaz even had access to this source code which can manipulate the Belobog robots, but she didn't even spam that, and it was only really used once if I remember. Even Svarog assesses that Topaz is just doing what she thought was the correct option to help Belobog survive. And by the end of it, even though things didn't go exactly to Topaz's initial plan, once Bronya and Belobog showed Topaz the engine of creation, which showed potential and how it was possible for Belobog to pay off their debts and succeed as a planet without the IPC, and they seem on the right path to work for their own survival. And then Topaz accepted it, and she even had to pay a price with a demotion at her job. And even the phone call at the end there, her colleague was wondering why she did take such a high risk, low reward job like Belobog in the first place. So I can sympathize with her intentions. If anything, I think it's more fairer to dislike the IPC. I can definitely see arguments that they manipulate struggling planets and societies into joining their IPC empire. And then, as we know, even joining them isn't a guaranteed chance of their planet surviving. If I remember correctly, it's about a 60% chance overall, and then 80% with Topaz's personal project since she's so good at her job. The only things I didn't really like was her sob story in her letter to Bronya, talking about how her own planet got saved by the IPC and that the deal was overall worth it. And to be fair, throughout the quest there were dialogue options allowing us to think that she's a smooth talker, she's manipulative, rather than being completely honest. But also maybe her letter was well-meaning. You could also argue that she had some sort of savior complex, and initially she thought that there was no way Belobog could overcome their situation without joining the IPC, and this was due to her own horrible experience with her own planet before the IPC saved them. So maybe she was being stubborn there. And overall, to be honest, I think having Topaz as the debt collector visiting Belobog is way better than if there was an actual ruthless douchebag, especially an incompetent one who has a poorer success rate than her and is less compassionate than her. Anyway, if you guys are interested in the story, then let me know your perspectives in the comments and if you agree or disagree. And we can also talk about some gameplay and theory crafting for a bit. I did see on the Pride Win site in their review, they stressed multiple times throughout their write-up that Topaz isn't really a support, she's not able to be a hyper carry, and they really emphasized her being a support first and a secondary damage dealer second. And whilst I never really criticized other creators, and I don't condone it, I have to be honest and say I very much disagree with this thought process. And personally, I think this is going to age poorly. I hope this doesn't come across as negatively attacking them, but I have almost the complete opposite impression of Topaz, and we're already starting to see Zero Cycle clears as a hyper carry, even in this Memory of Chaos layout, which is not favourable to Topaz much at all. I expect the next MSC to be much more favourable. To me, Topaz seems either a dual DPS or a carry that has supportive capabilities, but don't tunnel vision too hard on the team buffs. But also, I do understand it, since if I'm thinking about it, Star Rail hasn't really had a DPS with team buffs in the game yet. So if you didn't play Genshin, you might focus on the supportive capability a bit too much. But if you do play Genshin, then you'll know that we've had this a lot. So it's not really a surprise. Like Raiden gives team energy, Hu Tao gives team crit rate, Xiangling has the pyro application to allow a Hydra DPS to drop a nuke, and she even has a bunch of different buffs and a debuff in her kit. There's actually so much more characters I could say. A lot of DPSs have some sort of supportive capability in their kit, but regardless, they are still DPSs. Worst case, I'm sure you can definitely say she is intended to be a dual DPS. Something like how Kafka can also be played alongside another DOT DPS, but I really don't see that much of a difference between them to say that Kafka is a DPS and Topaz isn't really. If anything, Kafka has more supportive capability, yet as a community we already accept that Kafka can be a hypercarry too. And in fact, at the moment, that's her more relevant role. Overall, I don't want to criticize anyone too much, but as I said, I'm pretty sure if we give it a few patches, they will change their mind on Topaz. I'm pretty confident about that. Lastly, I'm just going to show you my build. As I said, I wasn't actually guaranteed to get her, so I didn't pre-farm materials, so all these talents are going to be a lot higher as I grind things out, but these relics are already pretty decent, and she doesn't actually have any good sets at the moment, and I do expect them to release a follow-up set soon, especially with all the follow-up characters we already have that don't really have great sets. But my planar ornaments are very good. I've been using these on Himeko, so it's quite easy to swap them over. And I even have this other fire set for Himeko, so I can play both her and Topaz together. For teams, I plan to test out a bunch, and maybe I'll make some follow-up videos showcasing Topaz. Obviously, I don't have Clara or Jingyuan on my account, but I do have some teams like Hypercarry. I have a dual DPS with Himeko, with Kafka, and even a mono fire team I can test out the different supports. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and congratulations to anyone who did manage to get Topaz, and thanks for watching.